everyone, and welcome to Game 41 of the Real Racquetball Show. We really appreciate everyone tuning in for another episode. We've got some really good information coming out. Special guest, Maurice, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining again. And how are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Just living life, having fun, being a father. It's the greatest thing in the world. I will never stop talking about it. What about you, Mike? What's going on with you?
Doing well. I am coming to everybody live from Fort Worth, Texas right now at a conference in Texas for a couple days, working on acquiring locations and sponsors and different types of things for upcoming national championships. These kind of conferences are really good for that. And of course, the conference typically brings us to them. So it doesn't cost us really anything to attend them. They bring us to the conference and find ways to convince us we need to go to their city. So they're very beneficial for long-term success of our national championships. So
you get to handle all that. I might see if I can bring my daughter out there. I've been thinking about it. It's be a nice trip. We've never been there. Speaking of that, though, we do have a new father. On the board. You want to tell everybody about it?
Absolutely. We want to congratulate what I believe is going to be is right now the youngest up and coming racquetball champion, Charlie and Ceci Pratt, had a little baby named Carlos Ellis Pratt. Congratulations to the Pratt family. We're beautiful little baby. That's really cool. Born on April 30th at 12:45 a.m. So that's really cool. Congratulations. We know.
Congrats, Charlie. Congrats, Ceci.
Yep. That's really cool. Yeah. And we all know Charlie well. He's on the board. He's a U.S. team member. He's very active in racquetball. So we know he and Ceci will be great parents. So that's really neat.
For sure.
All right. Well, let's chat a little bit about what we've got coming up.
Okay.
The national championships. Hopefully everybody's receiving all of the emails and seeing all the social media. The two coming up the quickest, national doubles and singles in College Station, Texas. And I know you're going. Yeah, so that's really going to be cool. It'll be good to see you in person.
Heck yeah.
Get you on a court competing again for that spot on Team USA.
Yep.
And also the in-person board meeting is going to happen that Wednesday. Of the championship is May 25th through the 29th in College Station. So if you haven't made your room reservations, all of you, please do that soon. The rooms we have a lot more rooms taken up than we have people in right now. So we know people are just looking for partners and those type of things. The numbers are growing every day. So if you're planning to go, get your name in, get a room reserved because they're going quickly. We'll have the Hall of Fame induction ceremony that Saturday evening. That's going to be a lot of fun. Always love doing that. That's one of the greatest honors of the position that I get is I get to announce and host the Hall of Fame celebration. Yeah. That's a lot of fun. The last one we had in, we did that in
Minneapolis?
In Minneapolis, yeah. So there's Minnesota. It was really a lot of fun. So if you're planning on being in College Station, be sure and put in your comment when you register for the event that you're planning to attend the Hall of Fame banquet. It helps us plan it. We know the people that are going, and it's always a wonderful, wonderful evening. So make plans to attend it. And the next event right after that is National Junior Championship in Des Moines, Iowa, June 22nd through the 26th. We want to get all the juniors to go. We know travel is expensive right now. Pretty much everywhere you go. The flight for me to come here to Fort Worth a couple of years ago was less than $300 to fly down here. This time it was $650 to fly here. So I'm thankful that the convention is reimbursing us for all of that.
Yeah.
Travel's expensive, but we really want to encourage all the parents. If you can make it, please do. This is going to be a great national championship. We're thrilled to be back having championships. So bring the juniors out and help them make the Team USA. And the last one that we're going to chat about is the save the date for the U.S. Open in Minneapolis, Minnesota, September 28th through October the 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
Put that on your calendar, make plans, drive, fly, take a train, however you need to be there. We want everybody to come to the U.S. Open 2022. It's going to be a lot of fun. So make plans on it. We got a lot of details that are going to come out over the next month or two. The website we expect to have up in the next few weeks. We're finalized most of the contracts now. We got one or two still hanging, but those should be done the next week or so. So make your plans to come to Minneapolis for the U.S. Open again. All right. And let's jump right into our special guest. We're going to chat a little bit about the USA Racquetball ranking. It's had a complete makeover over the last 12 months. We've added some significant parts to it. And one of the individuals that was very instrumental in getting that done was Todd Boss. Todd's a USA Racquetball board member and also extremely active in all types of different parts of racquetball. And Todd was very instrumental in getting the Q&A section written. He kind of led a lot of the committee and the group that put this together. So if we can welcome Todd Boss into the show, we're going to let him tell you directly. Todd, welcome to the show.
How's it going?
Hello, how you guys doing?
Pretty good, man. How about yourself?
Good.
I like your shirt. It's one of my favorite shirts. Isn't that great?
Got a shout
Mine's
out
back here on my suitcase. I brought mine with me here to Houston. It's a little warm to wear it, but when I left Kansas City, I needed it.
Well, Mike Coulter will be happy because I'm representing.
There you go. Well, we look forward to seeing Mike. I actually got my room reservation just this last week for 3-wall ball.
Whoa!
I am not missing out on that. Can't wait to go. So are you two both going? Todd, are you going to 3-wall ball?
My plan is to go. I went last year and helped out with the broadcasts. I helped both the LPRT and the RT broadcast. And the plan is to go again, 100%.
Good. It's a lot of fun. We know Maurice is going.
Yeah, we're playing together. I gotta go. What do you mean? I got to. Be the first time. Never been to Vegas. I've been to one outdoor tournament, the one in Stratton Woods, Virginia. They're holding that again, but I've never been to like a national outdoor. I can't tell you I know the rules of outdoor like that. I just know to hit the ball to the wall inside the line. Out the door is the best shot ever, and I can't hit it overhead to save my life, but that's okay.
Well, and you don't hit ceiling balls anyway, so you don't have to worry about that.
I'm short, Mike. I have to. I have to. Everybody keeps the ball above me. I have to.
Todd, are you going to play? Do you play any outdoor ball?
I did. So the closest courts to me are also Strattonwood courts. I used to live about 5 minutes from them, but now we've moved out of the area a little further south. But yeah, I did play last year. Somehow, so I played with TJ in mixed, and they somehow made it to the number 1 seed, and we got absolutely hammered by Martha McDonald and her son. You know, Martha's in her upper 60s at this point, so my goal would be to score more points this year than I scored last year. That's my goal.
There we go.
And do you want to tell us what that goal is?
Well,
if you don't want to,
okay, that's all right.
Well, look, I just can't get donutted by a grandma again. That's essentially that's the goal.
There you go. Oh, that's great. I love that. Hey, you got to keep realistic goals, right? That's all.
Realistic.
That's how you stay happy in life. Say we keep realistic goals. All right. Well, let's chat a little bit about the ranking system. It is really gone through a transformation over the last 12 months. Tell us a little bit about kind of how that started and what your role was, and some of the other people that were instrumental in getting it to where the point it is now.
Sure, you bet. So the USAR's ranking system was revamped back in 2005, and it went away from a participation-based ranking system and more of a competitive-based. So back in the days, and those of us that have been playing tournaments forever know this. If you knew somebody that just had free time and they could go play 30 tournaments a year, they would basically be nationally ranked just by virtue of them playing so much. Right. That wasn't really good for, especially wasn't good for seeding at the major events because it skewed seedings. And so what we did is 15 some odd years ago, put into place a system that very, very much driven by the way that chess works, where you track, it's not how much you've played, it's who you have played and who you have beaten. And at any one point in time, the rankings are a good indicator of, if you've beaten somebody that's higher ranked than you, then you move up to their level and vice versa. And then the rankings are driven by a specific period of time. So you don't want to have it be based on 10 years of time because people's skills evolve and they erode or degrade or, get better depending. And so what happened is this all leads into one of the first major changes that we had to do. Once COVID struck and we basically went 7 or 8 months without having any tournaments whatsoever, what we started to see in the rankings was players who didn't have any appearances literally getting their rankings removed, right? Because once you get enough results out of so our initial ranking period was a 12-month period, kind of a 12-month rolling calendar. Well, if you didn't play a tournament in 12 months, you lost your ranking. Well, that was not acceptable for USAR because obviously the ranking system and the stuff that we're about to describe is a huge benefit of your membership. Right. And it's also incredibly important for tournament directors to be able to properly seed events. It's important for getting national seedings right at national events, etc. Right. So one of the first changes that we made was to expand the window. We went from a 12-month period to a 24-month period. But interestingly, when we put that period in place, we saw a lot of social media chatter that saw suddenly that their rankings had drastically changed. Well, and they thought that we being USA Racquetball, they thought that we had made like wholesale changes into the algorithms. That's not what happened at all. What happened is that we went from, and this all occurred, I believe, in mid of last year.
Right.
When we expanded and took the time frame and took it all the way back to pre-COVID, suddenly a lot of these new results from the old days came into place, and it really kind of changed the way that people got ranked. Mm-hmm. So at that time, I thought it was at that moment that I really started to work on the frequently asked questions to try to explain to people in a very detailed level how the rankings work, why they changed, why some people's names are or are not there, how to do searches. And so that's when we really started to revamp the frequently asked questions data that's on the website. Right. Then, and by the way, at the end of this, if anyone still has questions, we can take them live. So feel free to punch them in as you want. Okay. But then what we noticed is that we had some deficiencies in the doubles rankings. I mean, we'll just be honest. The doubles rankings. So it's important to note that the more data that I have on players, the more times that you play, if you're an active tournament player, then your ranking is going to be a really, really good indicator of where you are, like right at this moment, to be completely honest. But if you don't play but once or twice a year, it's harder to tell and get an accurate ranking for you. Well, a lot of our doubles players, especially at the pro level, they do play pro doubles on the IRT or the LPRT. But a lot of our top open players maybe don't necessarily play a lot of doubles. At the flip side, we have a lot of players in the country now that play a ton of doubles, like especially down in Texas, where they run these open shootouts, very, very frequently, and they're constantly playing open doubles. And we found that for whatever reason, a lot of players in certain areas were then getting escalated above, top touring players. So we created a doubles task ranking force in the USAR, and it was a combination of board members and tour commissioners and other people that had kind of an interest in kind of figuring this out. We brought on Ryan Rogers, who's the owner of R2 and the lead programmer on everything that R2 does. And we ended up coming up with a new algorithm to kind of try to balance out and redo the gender doubles rankings specifically. And what we ended up doing was actually something similar to what we did 15 years ago. Is we as a task force re-ranked kind of the top of the top 50. I think, or we might have gone a little further down of the gender doubles as we thought it would sit as of 2018. And then we plugged it into the new algorithm. And the new algorithm, by the way, for doubles, it kind of puts weights for specific events. It puts weights for specific brackets. And so if you play, for example, in a pro event at the US Open, that's going to rank more and give you more value for your win than, say, like a pro event at a normal, at a normal tour tournament event. And then if you play an open event at a state tournament, that's going to rank a little better than if you played elites. And then somewhere in there, there's national masters and all of these other major national events that we have. All of this went into a formula that Ryan helped create and tweak. But trust me, we went through weeks and weeks of tweaking to get this right. Finally, we got to the point where he ran his algorithm, played it forward for every doubles match on the men and women that since 2018 to now. And boom, it looked great. And so we went live with it. And we went live with that like in the fall.
Right.
That still left us with mixed doubles. And that still left us with a big hole for outdoor. So then starting in the late fall, we went back to the table as a task force and started to think, what are we going to do about mixed doubles? Because every problem I talked about with not enough data for the gender doubles is even worse on the mixed doubles. Think about it. Like there's only been 2 or 3 pro mixed doubles tournaments like ever that I can think of. And so what we did is we came up with another algorithm tweak. And so now your mixed doubles rankings are kind of a balance between your normal gender doubles and then any of your mixed results.
Right.
And we did that because, to give an example, there was a couple of men's pros, and their names escaping me off the top, but there's a couple of men's pros who are very good doubles players, but have never played in a pro mixed event. Well, we didn't want them to be ranked in 100, because that wouldn't have made sense, because we know that if they did play a mixed event, they would probably be a top seed. And so now what you're seeing is you're kind of seeing a kind of a mix of, hey, if someone's ranked in the top 5 in mixed doubles or in pro doubles for men, but then they're ranked, say, like 10th in mixed doubles because they've gotten some good results, then you're going to see a combination of that result, and then that's where the mixed rankings are right now.
Right. Yeah. And when we mentioned something before that I really think is valuable for people to know, is the length of time when you started this and how much time was put into this for this task force. This didn't all happen in a week of a couple meetings. This is months of a lot of work that I know you guys put into this. So I think it's important for people to know just how this really was created and how much time and effort was put into it.
Yeah, I think that task force was, as I mentioned, I think, Maurice, you're on that task force. The commissioners, a couple of others, Ryan put in a ton of work, because every time we would get on these calls and then we'd be like, no, we don't think the balance is right, or this doesn't look right. And Ryan would have to go back, tweak it, rerun, resend us results. Then we're all doing analysis of this on the side in our spare time. Yeah. And I think that we've gotten to a point now where it's really well done. And I think if I look at the top of the rankings and then you start digging deeper into it, for basically singles or doubles at the indoor side, I think that they look great.
Good. Well, and you have, I think you're pretty widely considered one of the best statisticians and racquetball historians in the game. So your view on that was valuable. I know I was on a lot of the emails. I wasn't part of the task force, but the analytics that went into this was really well done. Applaud everybody's work and everybody's input, because at that task force there was nobody sitting on their hands. Yeah, everybody had input. It was a well put together group.
Yeah. So then that leads us to the next big release, and that is the outdoor rankings. So now the outdoor rankings have been kind of in motion, and again, I'm not taking credit for the outdoor rankings at all. So now we're bringing in a different committee within the USAR. This is now the War Committee, primarily Daryl Key and Michelle De La Rosa, who are leading that effort. And what they did is they went back, and so back before the USAR took over War, there were outdoor rankings, but they were manually kept, and it was somebody's kind of baby to take these outdoor rankings and put these things in and figure out, well, how do you possibly keep up with that kind of from a manual data perspective? So our goal was to apply the same R2 driven algorithm. So every racquetball tournament that we run is input into R2, and I've got a detailed head-to-head record, and I can know precisely who beat who, and once that tournament is finalized by the tournament director and sent in, right? Well, we needed to, just like with an indoor result, we needed to be able to take outdoor results and plug it into an algorithm to be able to generate outdoor rankings. But we had a gap. We needed to know a starting point. So what Michelle and Daryl did is they, along with some of the main outdoor directors that run the various states that are heavy in outdoor, they came up and they kind of pre-seeded a list similar to the way that we seeded the singles rankings back in 2005, or the way that we seeded the doubles rankings in last year. And then they did a big data entry effort, and they leveraged some interns that Dan Whitley was able to provide. And at the end of the day, what they came up with was algorithms that were and seeded ranking lists that were able to basically serve as a starting point. The interesting thing about outdoor is every outdoor court is different. I mean, to be completely frank, right?
Yep.
So not every outdoor court is 40 by 20 with a perfectly shaped, box like an indoor racquetball court. Some of these things are thinner. Some of them are wider. Some of them are shorter. There's courts in Florida that are 35 feet long, and some of them are longer. Like the courts in Marina Park where we play outdoor nationals are 46 feet long. And so what we did is, and then of course you have one wall courts, and then you have 3 wall courts, but you might have 3 wall short wall, you might have 3 wall mid wall, you might have 3 wall long wall.
Yep.
So what they did, and when you go look at the outdoor rankings, is this. If you play one wall, it's a one wall ranking. If you play 3 wall, whether it's short, medium, or long wall for 3 wall, it's 3 wall rankings. Right. And then you've got singles, doubles, and everything is up there, and now it's all driven. And as soon as an outdoor tournament is entered and submitted by an outdoor tournament director, the rankings are there and the results are incorporated. So you can go click, for example, we had the Beach Bash one wall tournament a few weeks back. Mm-hmm. You can go look and see the results of the winners from that tournament. And you can, when you go to the rankings, you can click on a person's name and you can see all their results. Mm-hmm. As you can go see, hey, I can see that. So at that particular tournament, Daniel De La Rosa won the final over Javier Mar. Right. And then one of those 2 players beat Robert Sostra, who's basically a one-wall Hall of Famer. Mm-hmm. And you can see those results and those results are important because Sostra was ranked very highly in the one wall. And so now you can see how whoever, when Javier Amar beat him in the 16s, that's now who Javier is tracking, and that jumps him up in the rankings because that's the way the algorithm works. Yeah. So the outdoor rankings needs a ton of help and needs to say a ton of thanks to Ryan for the same algorithm, for the keys for their working on this for more than a year, for all of the state directors that gave their input to help rank and precede the players. So that was a big collaborative effort from across the nation.
Yeah, and it will improve in accuracy as time goes along. The more times, the more data that gets put into it, the more events that are put into it, I think it will smooth out anything that, if something looks out of place, it will smooth out and make, get where it should be over time. So, and I know the single or the indoor rankings, it took it a few years before you could really depend on it. I know when I was running a lot of local tournaments in the Kansas City area, it took a couple of years, but boy, it really got to be accurate over time. And I think all the work that was put into the war was phenomenal. And I think it's going to be just as valuable for tournament directors. So,
100%. Yeah. What's really cool about the rankings is, and this is one of the questions that we have written up in the FAQ. It doesn't matter what draw you're seeding because of the filters that are built in. Let's say that I'm seeding, for example, a 50 and up female draw. Right. I can filter on 50 and up, and I'm going to pick in every single person that's eligible for that, whether they're 50 or 55 or 60 or 65, and it's going to show me their seedings. I can pull in, by the way, because it's R2, whether or not they're a current or an active member. Like, let's say, for example, that I'm a tournament director and I've got a player that's coming in who isn't current on their membership, but they're going to sign up at the tournament, right? I can see that person, even though they're not live to those of us on the website. I can still see their ranking, and therefore I can still seed the tournament correctly. So the system allows for a lot of flexibility for tournament directors to be able to properly seed. And these are kind of the little details that people that don't know about what R2 really provides us as a platform for the sport. These are the kind of little things that, took weeks to develop and make available so that we could be in the situation where we are now.
Right. And one of the things that when we first launched this new system that was not available, that we heard from several people and we moved pretty quickly to put in, was the ability to search for a particular player. It just wasn't something that was on the radar when we first put it together. But boy, you missed it as soon as you went to look for somebody. So that was added in pretty quickly, and that's another really nice benefit of the system. So
100%.
Yeah.
In IT, we like to call it, we put out an MVP, a minimally viable product.
Right.
And then we saw some users, we've got some feedback, and then because we have this relationship with R2, we're able to quickly prioritize and put in, these new fixes. And he not only did the search, but he expanded the list that pops up on the front page, and then he expanded. If you drill into a filter, the filters will go beyond the 1,000-person limit that is built in there. The rankings are really flexible and really useful.
Yeah, they're a good, powerful system now, and one of the improvements we put in is that it runs every week now. So as long as the tournament director gets the results submitted, within a day or two after the event's over, it runs every week and it's available. Those new rankings from that week are available for that next weekend.
100%. So the system is set to run Tuesdays, right? Which gives a typical tournament director a couple of days past a typical Sunday end to get the data to get the data put in and submitted.
Yeah.
So that's a frequent question that we get, though, is that players will go and look for their results and be like, well, where are they? And a lot of times the answer is that the tournament director has not yet put the data in for whatever reason. And so that's something that we can't necessarily control at the USAR level. That's just something we can. Hey, please submit your data, Mr. Tournament Director, Mrs. Tournament Director. Yeah. Because it does have it ends up having an impact on tournament directors that are trying to see their events going forward and subsequently.
Right. And prior to this big upgrade for the ranking, it ran really once a month when pre-COVID. Once COVID hit, it obviously didn't run that much, but this has helped out a ton. I think that tournament directors will like it. And the reasons why the tournament director may not have submitted it really isn't always just because he hasn't gotten it done yet. There are a lot of reasons why. If you don't see it, wait a week. You'll probably see it next week.
100%.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you mentioned a lot of the people that were involved in this, because it really was a big task, and we had a lot of people jump in and help. You mentioned Dan Whitley, and he worked a lot on this, trying to help get the original war ranking inputted and put together. The war committee did a ton of work on that. It was a big task. And as you mentioned, one of the most difficult parts about getting the war ranking started was it was split up into one wall, three wall, long wall, and short wall. Well, the same people didn't play all of those. So to put them all into a ranking system that somewhat reflects on the other disciplines was difficult. It took a lot of people to look at it and make sure that it was reasonably accurate to get started on. So
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And I look forward, we're starting to see a return of outdoor events. One of the things that we try to publish in each USAR monthly newsletter is an ongoing list of upcoming outdoor events. We're starting to see more sanctioned shootouts. There was 3 of them last weekend. There was a tournament at Stratton Woods. There was a tournament in Eustis. And then there was a tournament, of course, at the back end of the IRT event in California. That's great. And then there's another event planned there's 3 or 4 more coming in May. every time one of these events, as long as it's sanctioned and as long as the data is entered properly, it's going to just augment the rankings for these players, and that's great, because tournament players want to know where they rank, they want to know where they stand, they want to improve, they want to do better.
Yeah, and something I would be remiss not to mention that we're still a lot of people don't know that if you have an indoor membership, if you are a USA Racquetball indoor member, then you automatically are a WAR member also. That was something that USA Racquetball put in a few years ago now, that we basically, if you buy a full membership, you are a WAR member also. So you can sign up and go play one of some of these WAR events around, and you don't have to buy any other membership. You just go sign up and play it. If you haven't played outdoor, get a chance, go out and bang it around a little bit. It's a lot of fun. And the outdoor environment is just different than the indoor environment. You'll enjoy it. So, and of course, the more you play, your ranking will get better and better, and your game will get better. So, it's a lot of fun.
Hey, Todd,
you can go to Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
So, being as though you are one of the most recognizable names in racquetball, thank you for all the work that you put in. Very consistent with pro racquetball stats. As you mentioned, you've hopped on streams outdoor. You've hopped on IRT streams and various other mediums. Can you tell everybody why you do what you do? What drives you to do it?
This is like where we are today in 2022, and the work that I do is the culmination of 20 years of working on this data. Why? I don't know. I'm a database professional. I think that people in my field just have a pathological need to make sure that that records are complete and that there's a way to go and answer arguments.
Right.
Before pro racquetball stats existed, there was literally arguments about who won the Pro Tour in 1977 and who won the title in '82, and I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
That was actually one of the main reasons I built what I built, is because there was discrepancies about who had the most titles, and then there's the inevitable. And this is one of the rich things that I find interesting about our sport, is that we have these 3 or 4 different eras of our sport, and we're constantly saying, well, who's the best? And by and large, you don't want the answer to be driven by when you started playing, because before, if you played in the 70s, you thought that Charlie Brumfeld was the best. If you played in the 80s, you probably thought Marty Hogan was the best. If you played in the 90s, you were either a Cliff or a Sudsy guy. Right. And if you started playing anytime in the last 15 years, you think that Kane is the best. But at the same time, there's people that are saying, well, no, Marty Hogan would have crushed Kane if they had played at the same time. And there's really no way to answer these questions. But if I've got stats that do show, each of these eras did overlap. Marty played Cliff a bunch of times, and Cliff played Sudsy a bunch of times, and then Cliff and Sudsy played Kane a bunch of times. And so you can kind of see, well, all right, at the tail end of Marty's career, he actually beat Cliff more often than he lost to him. So does that mean that maybe Marty was better than Cliff? And boy, that's sacrilegious if you played in the 90s to even say that. But I'm just putting it out there, And then there's there's great what if questions. One of these what if questions came up in Keep Racquetball Great recently. What if Kane never existed? Would Rocky have won 12 more titles? What if Sudsy had never gotten hurt? Would Sudsy have won 7 more titles? What if Jack Huzek had never hung it up right in his prime at the age of 28? Would he have won a bunch more titles? These are great what if questions, and the stats that I've helped generate help answer and give these rich kind of data points to help argue. I guess that's why I do it.
Well, thank you. The absolute beauty of all sports is you can debate things like that, and you can apply logic, or you can apply your own personal bias, or you can apply, and it's just a great debate in sports, in any sport. And racquetball has a lot of that. Like you said, those 4 eras that you described, it's really entertaining to listen to people that have a stance, and they've dug their feet in, and they're just committed that this person is the best. So it's the beauty of sport.
Hey, and you know what? 3 of the 4 guys in the top 10 right now are over the age of 40. So that includes Kane. Kane he was born in 81. So he turns 41 in November rather. we're getting ready to start another era because Kane's not going to be able to play forever. And suddenly in the top 10, if you look, Daniel's in his I think he's in upper 20s, but we have 2 or 3 guys that are pushing the top 10 now that are 20, 21.
Right.
Is this the beginning of a new generation? 10 years from now, those 2 guys, and I'm talking specifically about Perea and Portillo on the men's side, that might be the new generation. Right. You're not quite seeing that transition yet on the women's pro side, because Paola is still in her prime essentially as a player. Right. But what's interesting about the women's side is that much more so than the men's side, a ton of push into the South American market, a ton of young players that are coming up from there, and there's going to be a generational shift, especially if suddenly Paola was to decide to step aside, if she wanted to try different things or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, much like what's kind of going on now with Kane stepping back a little bit. I know he's still playing some events and such, but the championships are open. Different people are winning those championships now. So it's creating a different vibe and a different group of people watching those matches. And I think the women's game could do the same thing, but there are a lot of players that are challenging Paola at tournaments, which is, really entertaining to watch. There's an event coming up in my town in Overland Park, the Team Root Max Grand Slam or Max Slam that all of the ladies will be at. That's coming up here pretty quick. I don't know the exact date on it, but it's coming up in the next month or so. To jump back to the ranking, what's one of the questions you've gotten asked the most times that we can it's been added to the Q&A, but maybe we can give some people a heads up on?
I think that one of the biggest questions we get is just at a high level, because they look at the rankings and they see things like tracking, like, okay, here I am and I'm tracking so-and-so, or my tracking is self. And so one of the biggest questions I get is, well, what does that mean? And how exactly do the rankings work? And so the simplest way to explain it is that the rankings are driven by what is essentially your second best win within the time frame that has been defined, which we touched on in the very beginning. We do this because everyone can have fluke wins. Like you can run into somebody who's hurt and or defaults halfway through a match, and then maybe you wouldn't have beaten them if you were both 100%, or maybe you just played out of your mind one day and that was different from you. And so as a result, it's essentially driven by your second best win. So, and then where you see this work is when you see someone you're tracking. So to give you an example, and this is, I'm basically reading from one of the FAQs. But let's say that you are in singles and you are ranked 325th right now. However, you've beaten somebody who's ranked 150th. So if you look at yourself up in the rankings, you will see your name and then you will see tracking. And then the tracking will be the person that's ranked 150th, because that's basically right now your current best win. So now let's say that you immediately beat someone who's ranked higher than that person. Well, then that new higher person will be your new best win. So that'll be your new tracking. And then you will immediately move above the person that you were previously tracking, right? Because now we know that you now got 2 wins at that level or better. And so you'll see this kind of keep going up. So if you go to the very top of the rankings right now, again, to go back to the pros, right now the number 1 player is Kane. And who is he tracking? Well, he's tracking himself because there's no one that has beaten him twice. Now there is someone out there who has beaten him once recently, and that would be Andre Perea, who beat him in an 11-10 final a couple months back. So now when you go look at Andre Perea, guess who he's tracking? He's tracking Kane at number 1. So if Andre goes and he beats the person ranked number 2, he's going to pop right there to that spot right below Kane. But Andre cannot ascend above Kane unless he beats Kane again, or Kane expires out of the database, essentially, right? If that makes sense. And so that kind of explains kind of the machinations of how the rankings work. And that's one of the biggest questions that we get.
Yeah, great question. Great question. And I probably get that one as much as anybody, but usually it's not. They don't ask me what the tracking question is, but that's one of the new features of the current ranking is you can see that tracking information now where it wasn't really available before. So you can see who it is, who your best win is, and if you beat somebody above that you can track above that. So that's really neat. Another question that's on the FAQ that I get from time to time is do the game points matter in ranking, or is it just simply wins and losses?
It is just simply wins and losses in singles. In singles, if a match starts, then it will count as a match. And the reason I make that distinction is because if you get a complete walkover, a win by forfeit or a win by injury forfeit where the match doesn't start, that doesn't count. Right. But if a match starts and then there was a default or whatever, then irrespective of the score, you can win 14, 14, and 10, or you can win 1-1, and it's going to still be a win over that person.
Right.
Now in doubles, the reason I say that it depends. So that's the way we do it in singles. If you play a shootout, let's say that you play a shootout where you're playing a bunch of games of 1 game to 15, in a round robin or whatever, those are going to still matter the same. It's still going to count as a win in the singles database. In doubles, we do a slight modification because the doubles is less about who you've beaten and it's a little more because it has to do a balance of the weighting of the event. So doubles shootouts count a little bit less than if you play a full match in doubles in the algorithm. But all of this is kind of laid out in the FAQ.
Yeah. Which, again, anybody that has any questions about the ranking, go to the frequently asked questions. It's been added to, it's been updated, and Todd put a lot of work into it. And it's on the USA Racquetball website. Go to the menu, and under menu, go to ranking, and then there's a frequently asked questions section. And it has it's been updated very frequently. So there's a lot of good questions in there. Well, Todd, we've had you on for quite a while now, and we typically try and keep the show to 30 minutes, and we're at 50 minutes now because this is really good information. Really appreciate all your input into it and all the hard work you put into getting the ranking to the point where it is. And if anybody's, watching this or is in tournaments, ranking is one of the values of the membership, and we don't take that lightly. We put a lot of work into it, and we applaud everybody that stepped up into this. Maurice, you were on that task force also. There's a lot of hours in that, isn't there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's a lot of discussion back and forth. Like Todd said, there was a lot of coming up with an idea, but you got to send it back and retool it because it just didn't tweak right. There was a lot, especially the mix. The mix for sure was difficult. But Todd for sure. Todd and Mike Grizz definitely, DJ too. They definitely got it nailed pretty good. So I've got to give kudos to them.
Yeah, well, that's great. And Ryan for doing the programming.
I feel bad for Ryan. Ryan had to keep going back and forth. Like he got it.
But I think the product we've come out with is pretty solid. Certainly would never say it's perfect, but time will help filter out any of the discrepancies you might have. Before we let you go, Todd, we want to take a moment and wish you happy birthday. I think you've got a birthday coming up here in a few days.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, 5 days.
5 days. Well, happy birthday. In case we don't chat before that, hope you have a good celebration and get to spend a day doing what you want to do.
Absolutely. Well, thank you.
All
and
right.
thanks for having me on. This is fun. I'll always make time to talk racquetball. And
Mike, can I ask Todd 2 specific questions? One specifically about rankings that you talked about tonight. A guy asked if he was Francis. He asked, how long do you have to track someone? It says, so in the past 3 years, if I beat a player ranked 130 and I beat a player ranked 103 this year, how does it work? Do they essentially move up to that person, or does any win or loss matter in that regard?
So you track the person, not the number. So it's hard to answer this question. It's hard to answer the question exactly without knowing the particular people exactly. But as long as you're within the period of time, all right, so his scenario is he beat a player ranked 130 and he beat a player ranked 103. So that 103 should be his new best win, and Francis should move immediately to 129, essentially.
Right.
Because now he should be better than the 130. However, you have to keep track of the people because it's not the spot, it's the person. So if that 130 guy beats somebody in the 80s and then beats another guy in the 70s, well, guess what? That 130 guy is going to now be up to the 70s. And depending on when your match occurred, Francis may get drug up here, and now that's his new best win, and he'll only go up to 103, if that made sense. So what's interesting about the algorithm is that every time it runs, and by the way, if people put in older tournaments, like this is why we have deadlines for entering tournaments, because if I stuck in a tournament from 6 months ago that corrupts all of this, and all of a sudden people are jumping all over the place, that's never a good thing. That's why we want timely data entry. But that's essentially, Francis, what should be happening. So if you see what you think is a discrepancy, what might have happened is that one of your matches was too old and it aged out. And so if you have a tracking person and then you go a year without beating anybody that is at your tracking person, then your tracking gets eliminated, and now you're going to go back and your tracking is going to be yourself. Meaning, hey, you had this real good win, but it's been a year, you haven't been able to replicate it. So we're going to act like that was an anomaly, and you're going to go back to yourself, and now you got to beat 2 people ranked above you to jump yourself.
Okay.
Did that make sense?
Yeah, thank you. That helped me too. And then another guy, Mike can ask, do you take donations for Pro Racquetball Stats?
I have never taken a dime for Pro Racquetball Stats. This has always been a labor of love. Early on, someone proposed like a paid for or a subscription based thing, and I just, that's just not, as a service, and based on the data that I collect, kind of across, I have data across all the federations, right? Pro data for men and women. I have the old Pro Tour. I've got IRF amateur data. I've got junior data. I've got all the outdoor data in there. It wouldn't have made sense to say, take money from the IRT and make it subscription only from the IRT, but then make everybody else for free, or it just, I didn't think that there was a pathway forward for that. So I've never thought about soliciting donations. Maybe I should.
Well, we appreciate the work and the availability of it, because I know there are a lot of people that are stat driven folks. A lot of, much like baseball, it's all stat driven, and there's a lot of stats in racquetball if you get a chance to go through it. So tell them where they can find a lot of this information. Well,
so the main racquetball site, or the main site for the Pro Racquetball Stats, is literally proracquetballstats.com, just all spelled out. At the homepage, you'll see the tour, or the sanctioning body to fire, and then you can kind of drill in from there. And then as you noted, for all the rankings information, if you right off the homepage, you can go for USA Racquetball, you can find the rankings. It'll take you to a page with the FAQ here, and then the direct links to the rankings here, and you can kind of go from there.
Right. All right. Well, Todd, we'll let you go. Again, thank you very much for all the work you do. Thank you for coming on the show and chatting about it. It's always fun to chat racquetball with you.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Thanks, Todd. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Guys.
All right.
Terrific information.
Isn't that? Every time you get a chance to sit and chat with Todd about racquetball, you just come away smarter than you were before, because he's got all the information, puts it all together, and understands it so well. So that's a lot of fun. Always enjoy that.
Yeah. If any other questions you've got about rankings, feel free to email rankings@usaracquetball.com.
Right.
Someone will absolutely answer any question you've got, or at least provide you an answer to that.
And maybe it'll make it onto one of the upcoming shows. Which the next show will be Game 42. It'll be Monday, May the 16th. So mark your calendar. Come and join us. And I think we've been on for an hour now. So it's been a lot of fun. It went really quick. I thought we were at 30 minutes, and we're not.
Hey, when we get on, we always have fun, Mike.
Yeah, we do.
We do. So everybody, please like and share the feed. If you have any We're Racquetball champions, please send them at Shane at usaracquetball.com.
Yep.
Get Mike Wedel on a racquetball, hashtag that. Quick question about junior nationals.
Yes, sir.
Or answer. The nationals is from 23rd to the 26th, but they can practice on Wednesday and it starts Thursday, right? And
Right.
then special rules. There are no special rules. Like for mixed, girl wants to serve the guy wants to serve the girl, you're fine. Rally scoring because of IRF. 10 and under, 12, 14, 16, 18, 21 is Spirit and World Cup. So if your team qualifying division, but if you lose out of gold, it's back to regular scoring.
Correct.
Okay, so just any questions out there, we good. Mike?
Great clarification that it's the old divisions only, because we're only using the RF rules for the divisions that qualify for Team USA. The rest of them, amateur rules. All right. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate you taking time to watch the show. As Maurice said, share the feed, like it. We want everybody to get this great show. So we'll see you all again in a couple weeks.
Absolutely. See you, Mike. Bye, everybody.